This story will change the way you see things. Watch it till the end because there's a powerful lesson waiting for you. And please, I'm begging you, hit that subscribe button right now. Your support helps us grow and bring more life-changing stories to you. Don't scroll away. Don't leave without subscribing. We need you. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. This is the story of Kem, a 23-year-old village girl whose life changed the moment her parents told her, "You are getting married in 2 weeks." She blinked slowly, stunned. "Wait, what?" she whispered. Her younger brother sat silently in the corner, chewing his nails, not daring to make eye contact. "His name is Chuka. He lives in the city. He's ready to pay bride price and take care of you," her father said, not even looking up from the newspaper. "But I don't even know him," Kem shouted. Her heart pounded like a drum, her hands trembling. "Is it because we're poor? Is this the price I have to pay for being born into this family?" She stormed out of the small house, barefoot, into the hot red sand of the compound. She ran past the neighbors' houses, past Mama Ifeoma's pepper stall, straight to the riverbank. That was her escape. She sat by the water, panting, eyes full of confusion. "Marry a stranger?" she whispered to herself. "God, why?" You see, Nikem was the first daughter of a struggling family. Her father lost his job during a company downsizing, and her mother sold a kara by the roadside. There wasn't enough to go around. Her little brother had dropped out of school, and her baby sister was always sick. She had dreams, big ones. Nikem wanted to become a nurse. She had even started helping out at the village clinic, wiping sweat off sick children's faces, holding old women's hands as they groaned in pain. She didn't care that she wasn't getting paid. She just wanted to help people. But now her dreams were being traded for marriage to a total stranger. Back at home, the preparations had already started. Her aunties were wrapping jelly and measuring her for a wedding dress. The women hummed traditional songs as if this was a celebration. It didn't feel like one. 2 days later, her father called her again. "He's coming from Lagos tomorrow. Chuka, he wants to see you before the wedding." Nkem's stomach twisted. She hadn't eaten all day, and now her head was spinning. "Fine," she mumbled. "I'll meet him, but only to tell him I'm not doing this." The next morning, a black SUV pulled into the compound. The engine purred like a lion. The car looked so shiny it reflected the sky. Kids ran after it, shouting, "Big man don't come, oh!" The door opened slowly, and a tall, dark-skinned man stepped out. He was wearing a simple kaftan and leather sandals. His eyes scanned the compound until they landed on her. For a moment, they just stared at each other. He smiled, revealing perfect white teeth. "Kem?" he asked. She didn't answer. Her eyes narrowed suspiciously. "I'm Chuka," he said, his voice calm, low, and surprisingly gentle. "Can we talk?" They sat under the mango tree. He didn't try to touch her. He didn't act like her husband-to-be. He just asked questions. "What do you like to do? What makes you happy? Do you believe people can really fall in love even if they start off as strangers?" Nikem frowned. "Is that what this is to you? An experiment?" she asked. He chuckled softly, then sighed. "No, I want to get to know you, if you'll let me." She didn't know what to make of him. He wasn't what she expected. No gold chain, no flashy talk, no arrogance. He was mysterious, gentle. But was it real? That night, as she lay on her mat staring at the ceiling, her heart raced with questions. Who is this man, really? And why is he acting like he's trying to impress me? Isn't this an arranged marriage? What she didn't know was that Chuka had a secret. A big one. And soon, her whole life would be flipped upside down. Chuka has a secret. But what is it? That thought refused to leave Nkem's mind, even days after their first conversation. Every morning, she woke up with questions pounding in her chest like thunder. Every night, she lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the frogs croaking outside and the distant bark of dogs, trying to piece together who this man really was. The wedding was 4 days away. People in the village were already talking. Auntie Ngozi had told Mama Ifeoma that Nkem Dawn hit jackpot. Others whispered that Chuka must be a big man from Lagos who had come to take her away to a life of riches. But Nkem didn't care about that. She didn't want riches. She wanted her freedom. That afternoon, Chuka returned to the compound, this time with bags of rice, cartons of tomatoes, and even a new wrapper for her mother. The women clapped and smiled. Her father, for the first time in months, laughed out loud. But Ninkim stood at the edge of the compound, arms folded, frowning. He saw her. "Nkim," he called softly. She didn't answer. He walked over and stood beside her. "You still don't trust me," he said. "Should I?" She snapped. He nodded slowly. "No, not yet, but I hope you will. Eventually." She looked at him, curious and cautious. "Why me?" she asked. "You don't know me. I'm just a village girl. You could have anyone." Chuka inhaled deeply, eyes on the orange sunset. "Maybe that's the point." "What does that even mean?" she asked, confused. He turned to her and smiled. "Walk with me." They strolled through the narrow bush path behind her house, leaves crunching under their feet. Birds chirped above. The wind blew gently. There was a strange comfort in the silence between them. After a while, he spoke. "I was raised by my grandmother in a village like this. I know what it means to struggle. To eat gari with sugar, to fetch water from the stream, to wear torn sandals to school." Nikim glanced at him, surprised. "When I turned 18, I got a scholarship to study abroad. I worked hard, built a company. I have money now, but sometimes I still feel like that same poor village boy." He paused, looked at her. "You remind me of my past, and that's not a bad thing." Ninkim's heart softened a little, but she wasn't ready to let her guard down. "So are you rich or something?" she asked half-jokingly, trying to hide her nervousness. He smiled faintly. "You'll find out soon enough." The next day, Chuka offered to take her to the city, to see where she might live. Her parents agreed instantly. Her mother even packed food for them. "My daughter, enjoy your first date with your husband." She giggled, her eyes twinkling with excitement. But Kem wasn't excited. She was anxious. The car ride was long. 2 hours of winding roads, traffic, and silence. He didn't talk much, just drove, occasionally glancing at her. Finally, they pulled into a quiet estate, gates taller than her father's house, flowers neatly trimmed, guards saluting as they drove in. "Where are we?" she asked. He parked in front of a modest-looking bungalow. "This is one of my homes," he said casually. Nkem blinked. "One of?" He led her inside. It wasn't flashy, just clean, peaceful. Air conditioner humming, white curtains dancing gently in the breeze. She looked around, bookshelves, family photos, and a huge painting of an old woman. "That's my grandmother," he said softly. "She raised me. I lost her 2 years ago." There was a tenderness in his voice she hadn't seen before. They sat down. He brought her chilled zobo and puff-puff, not the fancy stuff, the normal, familiar food. "You could have brought a girl from the city," she said quietly. "Someone who knows how to act classy, speak English with accent, wear wig and lashes." He laughed, a deep, genuine laugh. "But I don't want fake. I want real." She looked at him for a long time. Her heart was starting to betray her. Was it possible she was beginning to like him? But something still didn't add up. On their way back to the village, her eyes caught something strange in the car's dashboard. A photo hidden under a piece of paper. She pulled it out. It was Chuka, standing beside a sleek private jet. He was wearing a suit. Another man in the picture looked like a foreign business mogul. Her eyes widened. "Chuka, what's this?" He glanced at the photo, then back at the road. His grip on the steering wheel tightened slightly. "It's part of the life I left behind." "Left behind? You own a private jet?" He didn't answer. "Wait, are you rich? He exhaled slowly. "Let's just say, money is not my problem." Her mind was spinning. "So why hide it? Why come to my village dressed like an ordinary man? Why act like you're just another suitor?" His jaw tightened. "Because I've made mistakes before." He pulled the car over by the roadside, parked under a mango tree. He turned to face her. 3 years ago, I proposed to a woman. She said yes. I thought she loved me, but she was only in love with my money. The moment I had a small health issue and disappeared from public life for a while, she vanished. Took what she could and left. No goodbye. Nikem stared, speechless. "So, this is a test?" she whispered. He nodded slowly. "I needed to know if someone could love me without all this." He pointed to the car, the estate behind them. The suit in the photo, her mouth went dry. She felt like someone had pulled the rug from under her feet. "So you're testing me?" Her voice cracked. "Was I just an experiment to you?" He reached for her hand, but she pulled away. "No, Ninkem, it started as a test, but now, I don't know. Something's changed." Tears welled up in her eyes. "You lied to me," she said, her voice trembling. "You played with my heart." He didn't speak. just stared at her, eyes full of regret. She got out of the car and walked down the road, barefoot, dust rising behind her with every step. She didn't care. Her head was spinning. Her heart was breaking. Was she falling for someone who never really showed her who he was? But what hurt the most was that despite everything, she still wanted to believe him. Still wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't just a test. How do you forgive someone who lied to you but made you feel seen for the first time in your life? That question haunted Nkem as she walked barefoot back into the village. Dust clung to her legs, her wrapper was soaked with sweat, but her heart was what felt the heaviest. As soon as she got home, her mother came running. Where is your fiancé? Did he leave you on the road? Her voice was full of worry, but Nkem brushed past her without saying a word. She entered the house and collapsed on her mat, breathing hard, eyes wide open, lost in a sea of emotions. The truth had dropped on her like thunder. Chuka wasn't just rich, he was a billionaire. Not movie rich, real life rich, private jets, estates, connections with global businessmen, and all this time, he pretended to be a regular man. The worst part? She almost believed everything between them was real. But now, she didn't know what to believe anymore. The next morning, she woke up to the sound of voices outside the compound. Whispers. Giggles. Then, "Big man Don come again," a child shouted. Her heart dropped. Chuka's SUV was parked outside and he was standing near the gate holding flowers. "Oh God," she muttered, rubbing her face. "Not today." She stayed inside, but her mother rushed in, beaming. "He's here to apologize. Go out now. Don't let this opportunity pass you by." "Opportunity?" Nkem hissed. "This is not a job interview, Mama. This is my life." Still, something pulled her up, a force she couldn't explain. Maybe anger, maybe hope, maybe the small part of her heart that still wanted answers. She stepped outside slowly. Chuka turned. Their eyes locked. He swallowed hard. "Can we talk?" They walked to the backyard near the old mango tree where she used to play as a child. "You lied to me," she said before he could even open his mouth. "You tested me like I was some lab experiment." He nodded. "I know, and I'm sorry. I didn't plan to hurt you. I was just scared. I've been betrayed before, Nkem. I needed to know that whoever I let into my life wasn't just after my wealth." "And did you find what you were looking for?" she asked, tears in her voice. He looked at her deeply. "Yes, but now I've lost it." There was silence. The birds chirped. The wind blew gently through the leaves. Then he pulled something from his pocket. A small, old notebook. "This was my grandmother's," he said. "Before she died, she made me promise to find someone who could love me like she did, when I had nothing." He flipped open the notebook. Inside were tiny drawings. One page had a child's scribbles. A small house, 2 stick figures holding hands. She said, "Real love is when someone holds your hand when the world forgets your name." Nkem blinked back tears. Her voice shook. "So why didn't you just tell me the truth from the beginning?" He sighed. "Because if I told you I was a billionaire, I'd never know if your yes was for me or for my money." They stood in silence. Then he reached into his pocket again and held out an envelope. "This is your ticket to the city," he said. "A job at one of my hospitals, not as my fiancée, not as my wife. Just Nkem, the caregiver." She froze. "Wait, you're giving me a job?" "Yes," he said. "You wanted to be a nurse. You said you love helping people. You don't need to marry me to chase your dream." Her lips trembled. Nobody, not even her own parents, had ever believed in her that way. He looked down, his voice softened. "Whether you forgive me or not, I want you to know you deserve to live your dream, even if it's not with me." And with that, he walked away. No drama, no pressure, just quiet footsteps fading down the dusty path. That night, Nkem sat under the stars, clutching the envelope. Her heart ached, but not from betrayal anymore, from something else, a strange, deep ache called longing. She opened the envelope. Inside was a letter from one of the biggest hospitals in Lagos. A job offer, a place to stay, a small allowance, no strings attached. She couldn't sleep that night. Is it possible that a man tested my heart and then gave me the very thing I've always prayed for? Her father called her the next morning. "Are you going to the city?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "Yes, Papa, but not for marriage. For me." He didn't stop her. Maybe for the first time, he understood. So, with one small bag, a beating heart, and the echo of Chuka's words in her ears, Nkem boarded a bus to Lagos. She didn't know what would happen next. All she knew was that her story wasn't over. In fact, it was just beginning. Sometimes it takes leaving everything behind to discover who you really are. Lagos was nothing like Nkem had imagined. The noise, the smell of roasted corn on every street, Danfo buses shouting destinations with voices louder than thunder, tall buildings that touched the clouds, crowds everywhere. It was a different world. She clutched her small bag tightly as she stepped down from the bus. Her heart was pounding. Badum! Badum! The letter from Chuka's hospital was folded neatly in her purse. Her only shield in a strange city. The hospital was real. Big. Clean. With nurses dressed in white uniforms and name tags that made them look like angels. When she walked through the glass doors, every eye turned to her. Some curious, some amused. A woman at the front desk stood up. "You must be Nkem," she said warmly. "Come. We've been expecting you." They gave her a small room in the hospital's staff quarters. Nothing fancy, but it was hers. Clean bed, running water, a table where she could finally write her thoughts again. She cried that night. Not out of sadness, but because for the first time in her life, she felt seen, like her dreams mattered. She started work the next morning. Her job? Taking care of elderly patients in the recovery unit. Most of them couldn't walk on their own. Some didn't speak much, but they all had eyes full of stories. Nkem listened. She cleaned wounds, served medication, held trembling hands, wiped tears, and every now and then she made them laugh. Her smile, so warm, so genuine, became famous in that ward. Weeks passed. No calls from Chuka, no visits, nothing. At first she thought he was giving her space. Then she began to wonder. Did he really mean everything he said, or was I just a chapter in his story, while he was the whole book in mine? But every time her mind wandered back to him, she forced herself to focus. Work, patience, her future. One day, while feeding an old woman named Mama Sade, the woman suddenly grabbed her hand tightly and whispered, You have a healer's spirit, but your heart, it's not fully here." Nkem blinked. "What do you mean, Mama?" The old woman looked at her with wise, tired eyes. "Someone broke your heart, didn't they?" She didn't answer. She just looked away. That night, she stared at the hospital ceiling for hours. She hadn't thought about her feelings in weeks. She buried them under her job. But now, they were bubbling up again. She missed him, not just his voice or his smile. She missed the way he made her feel, like she was more than just a village girl, like she mattered. One rainy morning, as she was walking to the ward, one of the nurses pulled her aside. "There's someone at reception asking for you." "Who?" Nkem asked. The nurse smiled. A fine man, wearing native, tall, calm eyes. Her heart skipped. No, it can't be. She rushed to reception, and there he was. Chuka, standing in a cream-colored senator wear, holding a plastic bowl of okra soup and pounded yam. "Hi," he said simply. Her breath caught. What are you doing here?" He held up the bowl. "I made your favorite." She blinked. "You cook?" He smiled. For the right woman, yes. They stood in silence for a moment, just looking, breathing, remembering. "Why are you here, Chuka?" she finally asked. "You said you'd let me go." He nodded slowly. "I did. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done, but in Nkem, I didn't just fall for a woman who stood up to me. I fell for a woman who had every reason to give up and still kept going." She looked down, heart pounding. "I didn't want your money," she said quietly. "I wanted the truth." "And you deserve that," he said. "So I'm here, not as a billionaire, not as the man who tested you, just as Chuka, the man who's in love with you." Tears welled in her eyes. "You hurt me," she whispered. "I know," he replied, stepping closer. "But I'm ready to spend the rest of my life making it up to you, if you'll let me." She stared at him, breathing deeply. The hospital faded, the people, the noise, it was just them. "I don't need your money, Chuka," she said, her voice cracking. "But maybe I still need you." He smiled, gently wiping a tear from her cheek. "Then we can start again. No secrets, no tests, just truth." He handed her the bowl of soup. She laughed through her tears. "You didn't even tie nylon over it. Rain could have entered." He chuckled. "Next time, I'll bring flask." They sat on a bench outside the hospital, under the rain's soft drizzle, sharing pounded yam like two kids on a school break, and for the first time in months, Nkem's heart felt full. Real love isn't loud. Sometimes it's quiet, like the sound of two hearts healing side by side. It'd been 3 months since Chuka came back into Nkem's life. 3 months of slow talks, long walks, deep forgiveness, no fancy dinners, no designer bags, just two people learning to love again. this time without masks or tests. They kept things quiet. Nkem continued her job at the hospital. She insisted. She wanted to prove to herself that her dreams didn't need to be attached to a man. Chuka respected that. But every weekend, he came. Sometimes with food, sometimes with books, sometimes with nothing, just himself. And those weekends, they were magic. They would sit on the hospital rooftop late at night, legs dangling off the edge, watching Lagos lights twinkle like stars that refused to sleep. One night, he brought a small speaker. They danced slowly under the moonlight. No music. Just the beat of their laughter and footsteps on concrete. Nkem rested her head on his chest. "Why me?" she whispered. He smiled. "Because when everyone else saw a village girl, I saw a queen." She chuckled, wiping a tear. "You and your sweet mouth." He held her tighter. "No games this time. If you'll have me, I want to build a life with you. Not just because I love you, but because I respect you." She closed her eyes, and in that moment, every fear she had carried, from the forced marriage to the heartbreak to the shame, began to melt. The wedding wasn't grand. Nkem didn't want cameras or social media noise. She wanted meaning. So they did a quiet traditional ceremony in her village. Just close friends, elders, and the few people who saw her when she was still invisible. When Chuka arrived, people screamed, not because of his wealth, but because he came with humility. No convoy, no blaring sirens, just him. In native attire, kneeling before her parents, asking for their blessing. Her father, who once forced her into marriage for poverty's sake, now held her hand, eyes wet with tears. "Forgive me, Nkem. I didn't know your worth, but today I see it." She hugged him, sobbing. "I forgive you, Papa." The bride price was simple: one Bible, a basket of yams, and a small box of her favorite beads. And when they exchanged vows under the mango tree in her compound, the same place where he first apologized, everybody cried. Even the sky, it seemed, had tears. Years passed. Nkem opened her own health center right in her village. She named it Ifeoma House, good thing, after the old woman who once told her she had a healer spirit. She could continue to make that. Now, he did it with her beside her. Not to show off, but to serve, to heal, to give scholarships to young girls with dreams just like Nkem's. And every year on their anniversary, they returned to the rooftop of that old hospital to dance, to remember, to whisper, "We made it." So, what's the lesson? Sometimes pain is the road to purpose. Sometimes rejection is redirection. And sometimes being forced into something you didn't want leads you to exactly what you needed. This wasn't just a story about love. It was about strength, about choosing yourself first, and about the kind of love that finds you when you least expect it, but most deserve it. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful African stories. Drop a comment. What would you have done if you were Nkem? Until next time, stay strong, stay true, and remember, your story is still being written.